All right, so today I'm going to be going over a client that we worked with in the furniture industry. They were resellers of other people's products, so they would list the products, do the marketing, get the customer, then purchase it from the company, and then the company would drop ship it to them. Their challenge was a lot of these furniture companies still used a lot of old technology. So this is tracking inventories with spreadsheets and sending those updates by email. And what they were using prior to working with Sunbowl is they were using a lot of labor. So they would get the emails, people on their team would go through those emails. They would then update each record manually to make sure that the most recent update was on the site. And that introduced a lot of latency, but it also introduced a lot of errors. So if someone made an error, a human error, it would reflect on the website and then cause a lot of customer service problems. So when they came to us, they wanted a way to help automate that. And so what we did is we used Zapier, and I'm going to show you how I configured it in order to take those Excel spreadsheets. So if you're receiving a spreadsheet with inventory updates, and you need to process it through the store, I'm going to show you exactly how that all is set up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into, just see here. Okay, so I'm going to walk through the Zap that I put together, and I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that I ran into when going through this, some of the things that can hook you up in Zapier, so that if you're doing something similar like this, hopefully you don't run into those problems. All right, so the first one here is we had a Zap set up which would connect to an email address. Now that email address, if we have a look here, this was an email address we set up that only receives inventory updates. So we contacted all the vendors. We said, hey, you need to send all of your new email updates to this one email address. So we had a single place that we could pull those things from. Now, once they came in, typically they would all have the same subject line. And so we could do a keyword search for that particular brand. So let's say, for example, we were looking for this particular brand in the email. It would come in and it would show us all the available items that came in from that brand on that particular day. And it would have an attachment to it. And so then what we would do is we would use Zapier new attachment configuration, which would watch for the emails that came in with that keyword. When it had an attachment, it would then connect to another software, which was called Easy FTP, which took that attachment and then uploaded it to an FTP server, which at that time we could then use a different app inside of Shopify called StockSync, which would pull down that FTP, run it through a script, and then update the inventory. So new attachment comes in, it comes in by email. We take that attachment and we then upload it to an FTP site. Once it's on that FTP site, the last thing we do is we go and label the email as processed. The reason we did that is so that we could tell which ones had been processed. Oops, that's not the right one. This one here. We could tell which ones had been processed, which ones had been worked on, so that we know later on that the script had finished. And then finally, we sent it to an FTP site. Now, once we were on the FTP site, we used an app called SyncX. It used to be called StockSync, but they've changed their name. And essentially, what it would do is it would look for things that were being sent up to the server. So, for example, every day it would go and it would check in with the FTP server. It would look for that CSV that got uploaded by the email. It would then download it, and then we would match those fields to the fields on their site. So it would go and say, okay, this is the SKU that was in that field, match it with the SKU on the Shopify side of things, and then take that inventory value and then update that inventory value. And we did this for multiple brands that they would work on. So we set up a feed for every single brand that they're working on, and so that they would automatically get new inventory updates without needing to set up that labor, which was a real big win for them, because now they could focus on just doing the marketing piece, and they don't have to focus on like constantly updating stuff. Like they were updating these spreadsheets every single day. It was taking 10 or 15 people to go through and do this. And once we installed this automation, all of that stuff just went away. They could just focus on the thing that they were really good at, which was marketing their business. So some of the things that I mentioned earlier that really caught me off guard when using Zapier was I was trying to filter, was essentially when you got an email that had multiple attachments. So one of the emails that would come in would always have, let me just go to it here, would have multiple attachments. And the multiple attachments thing is tricky because sometimes the attachment was a JPEG, which couldn't be run through a script, and sometimes it would be a document file. Who knows? It was different. Every single company sends their emails slightly different, and they don't all follow the same pattern. So the thing that I tried to do was I tried to filter out the attachments when they came in. But what I realized is it doesn't matter. I just upload all of the attachments. So originally I was overcomplicating the Zap by adding in a filter to look for a specific file type. All I needed to do was have it upload all of the files to the server. And then once it uploaded all the files, I just changed my StockSync script to look for the new file name. So one of the things that I had originally set up in the server was when you upload it, I want you to upload it as a new file, right? So I want you to go and upload it and rename the file. However, in certain situations, that would have the JPEG overwrite the CSV, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And what was happening is it would upload the CSV first, and then it would upload the JPEG, and it would overwrite the file on the server. And so what I needed to do was I had to have another step in there that would check in on the server, find the file type, rename the file type, and then I'd have my script on StockSync go in and pull it down. So the most important thing was to make sure I was pulling down the right file type. Once I got the right file type, everything worked super smooth. Now, some of the other things that we ran into was when we first set up StockSync here. So when we went and set up, where is StockSync here? There we go. This one, here we go. And when we set up StockSync, we tried to use their email plugin. So it would take an email that got sent to them, and then it would pull the attachment and work independently. The problem that we had with that is because we asked every single supplier to send email to a single email address, there was no way to filter the stuff that's coming into StockSync through their system. So that would basically mean we would have to set up a new email address for every single supplier, which became unmanageable. We all wanted everything to go to one email address so that when they were setting up new brands, they could just say, send the email to this, made it easier for the onboarding team to do. Once we did that, that's where Zapier needed to come in, because we needed to upload the individual files to different FTP sites, which could be separated by folder, and then we could go and pull it in by their FTP plugin. FTP generally is a much more stable technology than email is, because you don't have to deal with spam messages, you don't have to deal with bounce backs, you don't have to deal with capacity as much. And so often I recommend going an FTP route rather than going an email route or something like that. It really removes the uncertainty when it comes to building these reliable systems. And so, this was a huge success. We were able to build out a system that allowed us to really manage their incoming inventory without having a bunch of labor. We removed a lot of the mistakes that happened because there's no humans involved, and it gave us logs so that we could go back and if there was a problem, we could very easily see where that problem was coming in. It took about 3 months or so to work through all of the different pieces between communicating back and forth between vendors. But once we got it rolling, huge win for this company. All right, that's everything for this case study. If you would like to know more about doing this stuff, you can always join my online community at expertbymonday.com/community, where we have these kind of conversations. We help problem solve. We help figure that stuff out for you. And if you want some help building that sort of stuff, we also do this for money. So you can reach out to me and we would be happy to help you. All right, that's everyone for this one. You guys have a great day.